open the meeting with a karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uka, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi ake nā te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei mauri ora. Very nice to be here and the chair for my first meeting of Ngā Toki Whakahaere, the CCO Review and Appointment Subcommittee. Now, I have some apologies, and from Mayor Little. Are there any other apologies?
Councillor McNulty for lateness.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor McNulty?
Oh, Deputy Mayor McNulty.
All right. I will move those apologies. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Compton, thank you so much. We'll go to the vote. That is carried. We will now move on to, are there any conflict of interest declarations? Councillor Compton. Okay. All right. I just want to note that it's not a conflict, but that I have an interest and that I am a board member of Zealandia. Councillor Osborne?
Similar, that I'm a board member of the Basin Reserve Trust.
All right, thank you. We will now move on to the confirmation of minutes. So we will accept the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of March 2026. I will move those. Councillor Compton, second. Thank you so much. We will go to a vote. All right, and that is carried. There are no items not on the agenda. However, I do want to just highlight that for this meeting, we didn't get the decision register and upcoming reports paper. So I just want to note that we have a meeting scheduled for June, and the items that will be discussed include the Mātai Moana trustee appointments, the CCO's statements of intent for the year, and there will be board appointments coming to that meeting as well. So just wanted to note that for your reference, just an administrative error that we didn't get that paper on the agenda this time. There's no public participation, so we'll move on to general business, which is the Q3 reports from the CCO. So lovely to see our CCO whānau. We do have scheduled 10 minutes of presentation for each and 10 minutes for questions. I'm sure we'll have flexibility depending on when we have more questions and when we don't. But I would like to welcome Danielle Shanahan and John Diggins from Zealandia. Oh my.
Lovely digs you have. Thanks for the microphone there. This is a beautiful space and it's very nice to be here and to be talking to you today. So Q3, basically at the moment, Zealandia is incredibly healthy and strong and vibrant. There's a lot going on in the world and it continues to be a place that's very hopeful, very future focused and has extraordinary community involvement. So we're currently sitting at around 120 people on our payroll and around 600 volunteers. So it's considerable. 16,000 members of our community are part of our organisation. So it is a place of great hope still, even in these really uncertain times. So it's been a fun quarter. I'm going to give you some more recent updates as well that didn't quite make it into this report, but we've had incredible coverage of some really important and nationally and globally significant conservation events in the last couple of weeks. So one of those was the translocation of 10 kiwi pukupuku, so it's the tiny little kiwi, the smallest that we've got, up to Cape Sanctuary. So it's the second year in a row that that's happened. There's around 2,000 of these kiwi left in the world, so it's not very many at all. So just 10 is enough to actually provide a lot of genetic contribution to this other sanctuary. So the other one that we had is we've welcomed 2 new Whakahaere to Zealandia. So these 2 Whakahaere, Otahi and Hopi, they will sit on the wetland lawn, and this is a crowd favourite. You know, there's only 500 of these birds left in the world, and so this is an amazing opportunity that's recognised nationally for people to see and encounter this incredibly unique and rare species. It's probably the most visited site with Whakahaere in the whole of Aotearoa, New Zealand. So these 2 birds join, this is the chick that hatched, the miracle chick, if you will, announced just prior to Christmas last year, gained global attention with articles in international news like The Guardian. So we've now got 5 Whakahaere at Zealandia, so that's quite significant. Now, I mentioned this the last time I reported to you, but I can officially let you know that a bill has just been passed into law in Hawaii now that cites at length Zealandia as its direct inspiration. This sets out to establish 3 new conservation sanctuaries in Hawaii. The concept is fully based around the fenced idea that we have, and this, I mean, for an organisation like ours, there is no greater signal and obvious sign of international impact than something like this. I wanted to mention it again because now this is passed into law, I think we've got a massive opportunity to capitalise on this on the world stage. I've been invited to speak at the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators in the US, and that will happen in July, and that again is a signal of that international influence and putting Wellington itself, this is not just about Zealandia, but Wellington itself on the world stage for its leadership in biodiversity. So this is something notable, something to be celebrated, and a win that belongs to all of our city. I also think there might be some philanthropy opportunities here, so worth mentioning in this forum, I think. And another really cool thing that's happened in the last couple of months is 2 new philanthropy donors coming on board to support our learning program. So our learning program is quite significant. We have 5 educators, and this welcomes or engages with around 6,000 kids per year. We have 6,000 engagements. Some of them are double-ups. But basically what this philanthropy has done is it's enabled us to create a fund that will enable underserved communities to come to Zealandia. So in a fuel crisis, this becomes even more important, but it's about making sure this place is accessible and inspires our future generations. Right, so just a note to some of the more challenging circumstances that we've all faced as a city. Zealandia certainly has suffered a little under the face of these last 2 storms, the February and then the April storms. The February was more significant for us, with a lot of very large trees down, but the later one as well. We've had tracks washed out, for example. So our team is incredibly well equipped to deal with that, and we really appreciated the leadership of the city through those events. But we are noticing, of course, the costs are significant. So for us, looking forward and trying to make sure we are planning for contingencies, planning both time and financial resources so that we can respond and deal with these events is mission critical. Our fundraising event was very successful, so around 110,000 raised through that mechanism. So our community is there right behind us. Obviously, that only stretches so far, so we do need to be thinking very proactively about this into the future. And I'm going to hand over to my numbers guy on my right here, John.
Kia ora koutou.
Just check that you've got your mic on, John.
Oh, sorry, the green light was on. Sorry. Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Danielle. So overall, for the quarter, our visitation was down 4% on prior year, and this is predominantly due to member visits, general admission, and function visitation. Though the March quarter was only down 2% on prior year, with member visitation actually bouncing back after a really successful promotion and gifting through Christmas. People buying memberships on Christmas Day, last minute Larry's getting their Christmas presents in. Day tours have been a little softer in this financial year, but as shown in the second graph, our demand for our night tours has continued to increase. with an increase of 10% on prior years. Number for March. So somewhat ironically, April visitation was up on prior year, even though we had to close 3 nights for tours and 2 days because of the storm events, the cyclone and the subsequent rain event that I'm sure you're very familiar with. So yeah, really good performance for April, which is bucking the trend somewhat. And just, again, touching on tours, our forward bookings are really strong. This time, 31 March 2025, we had 86,000. It's not big numbers, but we had 86,000 of forward bookings, which are predominantly in the upcoming summer. 31 March 2026, we've got 112,000 of forward bookings, so a 30% increase. So there really is still a lot of demand for our tour products and our premium twilight and night tour products. So really financially, it's a really good result year to date, given the constraints faced by Wellington and, as we know, the drop in visitation numbers and the current economic climate, cost of living and fuel crisis, as we know. Revenues are ahead of budget and last year to date, which are driven primarily by tours and membership and supporter revenue. With membership growth this year really pleasing, having increased membership from 14,801 members at 30 June 2025 to 15,394 at 31 March. And as of yesterday, we're at 15,687 members after a win-back campaign in April. So that's 6% growth this year, or another 886 members. So we're on target to hit the 16,000 that we'd set ourselves for this year. Expenses have been really well managed, and we're operating within our budget overall, even though we have spent additional funds on our IT cybersecurity improvements, which were driven by the Wellington City Council supported cybersecurity review that was completed in June last year. We are forecasting revenue to be marginally below our full year budget, and this is largely because of non-Wellington City Council grant funding being slightly below what was budgeted. But overall, we're fighting really hard to break even this year. We're very, very close, and management are doing all we can to make sure we hit break even for this year. So yeah, it's going to be touch and go, but we're really hopeful we'll be right on there, and we'll be ahead of budget and ahead of our SOI target for the year in terms of profit before depreciation. Thank you.
Fantastic. And John is much more than a numbers guy. I don't want to pigeonhole him, but he was one of our original supporters back in 1997, I believe, one of the early adopters of supporting Zealandia. So it's pretty...
1995.
1995. I'm sorry, John.
Foundation member. So,
must have just been a schoolboy then, John.
Thank you, yes. Not quite, no. So I went into the Valley with Jim in 94, so that when he was telling me about his dream for the Valley, and so that inspired me, and Mum paid for 2 fence posts as well. So yeah, so the family has a long history with Zealandia. So it's really cool to be back working for such a great place.
Thank you. So just a minute to 15 seconds to look forward, slightly more than that. But look, winter's an interesting time for us. It's slow for visitors, but it's very, very busy for our conservation work. So it's an interesting time, but it is a time to regroup, of course. A key couple of pieces of work underway. One main one is a climate risk assessment that I have with we're working with Massey University students on that. So that will help us plan for the future that's coming. Some really good wins too. So Zealandia was a finalist in the Gold Awards this year again, but also we have received a highly commended for the reporting awards in the sustainability category. Now, finally, I just wanted to recognise you all. It's a tough time, making some really difficult decisions, and that's really obvious. Zealandia, if you look at this map, we've got on a couple of sides, we have gold mining prospecting permits granted. The little gold circle there outlines where the landfill that you guys were forced to consider last week sits. These are places where some of New Zealand's most precious species, like that hihi there, are living. These are biodiversity hotspots in their own right. They are globally significant and nationally highly unique. So I really do appreciate the work that you are doing to consider these sorts of elements, like through that decision that you were needing to consider last week around the southern landfill and waste minimisation. So, yeah, I just acknowledge that as intergenerational thinking. Wellingtonians are incredibly proud of what we've achieved here. Zealandia is just one example of that. There's Predator Free, there's Capital Kiwi, there's all of this work that's going on for our coast as well. So this is something that I'm really keen to support, and keen to support nationally as well, is that intergenerational thinking that'll help us hang on to this stuff for the next 500 years. So I'll finish there.
Thank you both. We have a question from Councillor Compton.
Good morning. I see you've got a very strong balance sheet, but I'm just curious, is there any contingent liabilities, or is there any big investments that you're expecting to do in the next few years to either secure Zealandia's future or expand? I'm just curious to know a little bit more about that.
There are no contingent liabilities. The key thing in our long-term plan is, of course, the fence and the fence replacement, which is included in the long-term plan. Other than that, we've spent quite studiously over the last couple of years on capital replacement. So there was a fair period of deferred maintenance prior to COVID and through COVID. But our capital expenditure over the last couple of years has been significant. We've replaced our electric vans, we've replaced our ute. We have our new office, Tanglewood House, so there's been quite a spend. This budget, we're looking to go back to just spending our depreciation, but we've done most of the catch-up. But the key thing for us is really the fence. But no, contingent liability-wise, our balance sheet is very nice and tidy, no bad debts. We're very much a cash business, so it is a very strong balance sheet, though a lot of that is tied up in our assets, of course, now. Though we still have a good balance of cash even post-STAP repayment.
I'll just add, as we come closer to being able to start replacing sections of the fence, the costs will become more apparent, and I think that's possibly the greatest area of focus right now, is actually what does that mean, what does that look like, and how do we plan for that going forward?
Councillor Osborne.
Thanks, Chair. Hey, first of all, I just wanted to start off by congratulating you guys on the work you're doing out there. My family and I visited a couple of weekends ago, and it was looking amazing. And my youngest was very pleased to add hee to his list of birds that he's seen. I just had a quick question. I noted in your update that you said that collaboration with Council on building resilience in the face of climate change is something that you would like to see more of. I'm just wondering if you could expand on some of the opportunities you see for that partnership.
Definitely. So the partnership has been very, very strong in recent years. That's very much appreciated. You can see that, for example, even in John mentioning the cybersecurity audit. That's activity that is expensive, difficult to implement, and it's great to have that sort of support. Where I think things will get more challenging in the future. A recent example is the perimeter track was absolutely ground out by that rain. You've got teams who are pressured to deliver to multiple other areas in the city. That track is used by mountain bikers, walkers, but it's also absolutely mission critical for our fence maintenance. So making sure that those teams are able to respond to those types of needs, I think, is really key. The teams are very open, but obviously there are multiple pressures on the table for them. So I guess understanding where Zealandia sits and where those sorts of things sit in terms of how Council responds is crucial.
I'm wondering, I guess, as we move further into dealing with the changing climate, have you got a sense of what portion of your OPEX, your annual operating expenses, are needing to be diverted towards either building resilience or responding in the face of these sort of climate-charged events?
We've talked a little bit about this at the board level in terms of having a contingency of, is it 2% of OPEX, is it 5% of OPEX for responding to these storm events, and also having a contingency of, again, 2 to 5% around revenue for closures because of weather events. We've certainly put some money into the capital budget for this year around just track resilience, and as Danielle mentioned, the rain event in April chewed out one of the tracks quite significantly. So also just looking at the options for placing the tracks in slightly different areas so they're not so susceptible to those rain events. So yeah, we're looking at around a 2% at least contingency, and likely to build that over the coming years, and also realising that revenue will be impacted, though we've been very fortunate at Zealandia. People will come and visit after a rain event because they know we've been impacted and had to close. But yeah, we've very much got that front of mind in terms of having funds available to repair, replace, rebuild following those events, and again trying to be more resilient as well. So seeing the rain event, how do we actually make the track more resilient or slightly away from the waterway so it's not impacted by that massive flow of water that was very unprecedented.
And I'd add collaboration. So, I think we've had about 7 closure events this last year. I've been at Zealandia for 10 years, and we've had 12 the whole time I've been there. So I think collaboration on actually trying to understand what the implications of this look like, and making sure we're sharing our knowledge really effectively so that we can make sure we're right-sizing those contingencies is going to be key. Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on the waste issue, because I've been on council long enough to have known, when we were looking at extension of the landfill, about the potential impact on Zealandia. Is there anything? I mean, I'm comfortable that we are moving in a direction, where hopefully that does not happen. However, what sort of impact would increasing the footprint of the landfill have on Zealandia's work?
Yep, so specifically the landfill already has impacts. On a calm day, 2 days ago, you could smell the landfill at least halfway down Zealandia, and on a windy day, which is all the other days, the trash flies straight in. So we see direct impacts already. Extension of the landfill closer to the boundary will make that whole site worse. So there's the direct impacts on Zealandia, that is one angle. The other side is that halo effect that's very, very obvious. So the increase of tui that we've all experienced, that's an example of the halo effect. It's species spilling out of Zealandia and taking up residents. That's most obvious in that area directly surrounding the sanctuary. So there's species that simply cannot survive with much predation. Species like tieke or hihi, the one that I showed you up there, these are the only places on mainland New Zealand where they are living outside of a predator exclusion area, and it's just on that boundary area. So these are unique, nationally significant hotspots for biodiversity. And yeah, planning for mines and landfills and those sorts of places is it's difficult. I can see the challenge you're under, but I really do value you prioritising that side of things, that environment.
Quick one from Poiwi Whakahaere.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up on that. Pest incursion, would that be impacted by the landfill if it got closer?
Landfills are a great place for rats and cats and so on. So these sorts of things, they do make predator-free aspirations more challenging, and certainly they put pressure on the fence if you have large numbers right on the outside.
Thank you so much, and I'm so the Hawaiian thing is thrilling, and I'm very excited to hear about your American invitation too. Oh. That's wonderful news for the, spreading the sort of growing the international reputation of the OG urban sanctuary. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd now like to welcome Blair Duncan from the Basin Reserve Trust. No, my Blair, it's nice to see you. Off you go with 10 minutes. Thank you. Just make sure you've got the mic on, Blair. Thank you.
Good start. Kia ora koutou, everyone. Just a quick apologies from Todd Bryan and Alan Isaac, who couldn't make it today. So hopefully I can steer the ship in the right direction for the next 10 minutes or so. Very good. So just start with some highlights for the season. So I guess one of the big ones, and sort of not, well, related to the basin, but not specifically around the basin, is just the Wellington Blaze winning the Super Smash for the 10th time and doing a three-peat as well, which was pretty impressive for them. We also, at the basin, hosted the finals of the New Zealand domestic one-day competition, so both the HBJ and the Ford Trophy, which was a great couple of days at the basin. Kilikiti at the basin happened again this year, and that sort of big picture you can see down to the bottom right there. So that was the third year we'd featured that, and it's a great event in the basin calendar, but also a great event in the Pacifica calendar, having that held there, and really pleased to see that they won an award at the New Zealand Cricket Awards for diversity and inclusion, and that but I mean, it was certainly helped and got along the way from the Kilikiti at the basin 3 years ago. So we're incredibly proud that by facilitating that and assisting with that, it's grown into a lot more of a sustainable program, and they're running weekly leagues now as well in the Hutt Valley, which was really cool to see. Had ongoing conversations with Whakahaere around the State Highway 1 improvement, and that's continuing to progress. We commenced the tender process for the turf management contract, and I'll have an update for you on the next quarterly meeting around how that's tracked. And then at the time, we were looking forward to, just before the end of the quarter, we hosted the White Ferns and the gifting ceremony for the T20 World Cup, which was a great event, and we had Te Atiawa alongside that to present that to the team. So they really, it seemed like it went really well, and obviously spurred them on to a couple of victories at the basin and a couple of great days of cricket there at the start of quarter four. In terms of the performance measures that we've got there, we're tracking relatively well across those metrics. Always a little bit challenging when we lose a couple of days of the test and we just see that reverberate through the rest of our financial year. Had a couple of issues around weather, which particularly affects that practice facility usage. But function days are picking up, which is good to see, the work that Black and Gold are doing in that space. In terms of numbers, they're down a little bit as well, and coming into quarter four, they're not likely to pick up for those events as we go through, so that's probably realistically what it's going to look like for the rest of the year. That comes down to both the test match going for 3 days and also the no beers at the basin this year, which we've mentioned a couple of times here, but we're certainly working through that. That also impacts on the event income and then obviously that cash subsidy, so it all sort of trickles down from what those event numbers are as we go through that. In terms of the financial statements for the year, I've got on the screen up there. There was a question we had coming into the meeting. So essentially, the year-to-date budget looks relatively well, but there's no revenue to come in quarter four for us. So there's still expenses with the renovation period, et cetera, et cetera. So if you see the surplus there at the year-to-date budget, it's looking all right, and then it sort of goes down a little bit for the full year budget. So we're on track to do slightly better than that, even though we have lost the beers at the basin this year, which was a big earner for us. So we're hoping to come in hopefully slightly better than that, just depending on what the total costs of the renovation period are as we go through. And you can see the cash loss there is around negative 13,000. So if we can bring that closer to zero, I think that'll be a pretty successful season given some of the impacts that we've had in that space. Challenges, I don't think the slides changed too much for the last few presentations, but the rising operational costs, the event diversification risk, just on that we've engaged with the company to do a bit of capacity modelling just to understand what that total capacity is at the basin. If we can push it up slightly, we're hopeful we can get a few more events at the ground as well. So those numbers are looking promising. Also been engaging with a couple of experts around some commercial opportunities, so whether that's increasing the revenue that we've got at our current events or trying to diversify our events as well that we've talked to. And I think you'll be pleased to know that glamping came up as a potential option, so we'll investigate that and see what that looks like as we go through. highly competitive and challenging content market. We're still waiting to get the final confirmation around what the summer looks like in terms of the international calendar, which will then trickle down to what other events we can look to host. There has been some promising events in that, some promising discussions, in that space around getting a marquee event at the ground as well. So we're just working through that at the moment. And then the other ongoing challenge is just the access to capital funds to improve the facility and turn it into a turnkey venue that's just ready to go and ready to host multiple different events in sport and also outside sport and supporting the community. Looking ahead, it's always a bit of a challenging one because half the things have already happened, but we are still to work out, like I said, what's happening with the international summer. Discussions with NZC around the NZ20 and how that's shaped have delayed that slightly, but as we've got an update on that now, we're looking to hear any week around what are internationals we can host and then what that can do to the wider city. We had the two White Ferns games, and they were both full of 2 wins and full of records and some fantastic displays of cricket. So that was really great to finish the international season on a high. Going through the renovation period at the moment, and then we've also had an initial discussion with an expert company around installation of floodlights at the venue as well, which will just enable us to secure more events and have access to more events as well. So we'll keep you posted how those discussions go. Pitches are marked for junior football, which hopefully might take place this week, if not next week, but great to have them on the ground Saturday and Sunday this year, and it's always great to look out and see kids running around on that ground. So happy to be able to offer that to them and really looking forward to working with football this winter to get as many games as we can. As I said, NZ20, so there's now been confirmation that it won't happen this upcoming season. It'll take place 27-28. So that just means we need to fill that void, and sort of what that looks like for this year we're still working through, but I'm sure there'll be as much cricket on the ground as we can get in that space, particularly over that January window where it's really great to come down to the basin and watch some games. And then the ongoing planning with the stadium around the men's T20 World Cup in 2028, which will be a really big event for the city if we can secure a bid, which they're just working through at the moment, and the basin will be a key contributor to that. That's the presentation, but happy to have any questions.
Yeah, Councillor Compton has a question.
Thank you for coming in. You mentioned that you've been talking with NZTA on the State Highway 1 improvements. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on that? And I'm wondering, I guess, those conversations, are they sort of conducive to the, events that the basin runs and the concerns that you have? I'm just curious how that sort of discussion's going. Yeah,
they're certainly in their infancy. So particularly the conversation is focused around ingress and egress at the moment and just what the new roading looks like, particularly around, I'll just see if I've got a better photo of it on here somewhere. Not quite, but just sort of that northern entrance, just as you came from Cambridge and Kent Terrace there. So that's where the new state highway, or the proposed state highway, will come through. And that's our main entrance and exit point of the ground. So the conversations so far have focused just on that, around safe egress, ingress, safe egress, and just trying to work out how we utilise that space, because it's really key for us in terms of vendors and ticketing and all that sort of thing as well. So that's been the focus. Obviously hopeful that there might be some contribution towards some capital works, given that the impact it's going to have on the ground, but certainly haven't progressed that conversation too far in terms of working out what the benefits will be to the ground. But yeah, we're certainly keen to make sure it doesn't have any negative impact, that's for sure.
Councillor Abdurrahman.
Thank you for your submission, which is really good, by the way. And I just wonder, in broader context, what do you think of collaborating with the schools, and which you're already doing with some sport organisation as well? For example, Wellington Ex-Girls College, where my daughter goes, they go for training from school, after school, straight to TFI. They have to be transported all the way there to training. And at the same time, that busy reserve, which is just next door to them, the ground is always, at that time, not much utilised. And I wonder what kind of relationship can be built, not only with this school, with so many other sport organizations as well, and utilising, and how council can support the maintenance of those services for you in return.
yeah, like you say, the asset sits there, and for the majority of winter, it's underutilised. I think we do have schools there, so St Mark's comes and uses the facility through the winter, and obviously there's sport there on the weekend. But if you know the contact there, just get them to reach out to us, and if there's some space and it works, then we'd be more than happy to host any sort of school trainings and that sort of thing over that winter period, and just, like you say, reduce the transport, make it easier for everyone, and take advantage of what is a pretty, pretty great council asset that's just sitting there.
Wonderful. I think that's all the questions. So thank you so much, Blair. We really appreciate it. It's nice to see you,
Thank you,
and
everyone.
hear about all the work you're doing. Thank you. I'd now like to welcome Fergus, the chair, and Stephen, who's the Asset and Engineering Manager from the cable car. I was very excited. My husband was watching Welcome to Wrexham, and I walked past. I wasn't watching it, but I saw the cable car. I was very, very excited to see that, some Wellington icons on that show.
Always exciting to see the cable car. Kia ora katoa, ko Fergus Frantoka Wingawa, and firstly, apologies from Tansy, our Chief Executive, who's away up in Auckland at New Zealand's premier tourism event, Trends, which of course you'll remember was so well hosted here in Wellington at Tākina last year. So she's up there meeting with international buyers, trying to sell our product. So we're going to do a duo show here. And we'll present our Q3 results, a few highlights, challenges, and what's coming up in quarter four. So from the presentation, you'll see, you've got them there. From the chart there, you'll see that we actually are, our targets are within 5%. So we are meeting our targets within 5%. We're 2% down for passengers and 1% for revenue. So passengers are down 6,387, and this is greatly from bad weather in January, which, as we've heard from Zealandia, impacts us all, and including the cancellation of the Anthem of the Seas visiting. So that one ship had 4,905 passengers, and we probably would have got a large number of those on board. And also in Waitangi weekend, we had an extended breakdown, and Stephen will make some comments about that. Just to note, if it is sunny, we can expect up to 1,000 more passengers a day. So these last few weeks we've had are an example of that, and that we'll get lots more people coming out and wanting to travel on the car. So our revenue's down around 12,000, and it's due to the same reasons. But we're still on track to welcome around 840,000 passengers this year. Just a couple of, just by the side sort of comments. So we had a surplus of around 455 before grant income for the quarter, an increase on budget by around 10,000. And this is predominantly from tightened operating expenditure and increased interest earnings from our surplus, which we hold. So we're doing everything we can to hold costs and to make sure that we can get as close as we possibly can to that financial result. It's not going to be good as we'd planned, but we will be doing a bit more than breaking even. If you look at the right way. If you look at the chart, you'll see how the breakdown of our markets are, and this is, for those of you who've seen this before, will see it remains pretty well the same. Green is tourists, including wholesale and family groups of our usually non-Wellingtonians. And it's typical for quarter three to have a lower commuter and higher casual numbers as commuters are on holiday. So at this stage for the year end, we're tracking to be within 2 to 5% below our target for passengers and revenue. 40,000 passengers down and around $70,000 in revenue. And this is once again due to bad weather, breakdowns and cruise ship demographies. And a good example of that was the Disney ship, which had a lot of New Zealanders on board, and they chose not to get off in Wellington. I don't know why not, but they decided that they probably wanted to enjoy the cruise ship rather than Wellington, what Wellington has to offer. I'll just pass over to Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Fergus. We're on track to achieve our other statement of intent targets. We've reduced our carbon emissions by around 20% since our base year. Our diversion of waste from landfill is part of that reduction. We've also maintained our qual mark and our rail safety licence. Our Net Promoter Score is doing well with an increased focus on visitor experience. We've got a new role where someone's dedicated to monitor and improve that.
So back to me. So some highlights from the year. So part of our visitor experience strategic pillar is to continually surprise and delight our customers. This quarter we had live music in the terminal every Saturday, and from one of our very own staff members, one of our drivers, Joanna, and you can see her there playing the cello. We joined our Victoria University friends at their O-Week and Student Expos, promoting our student rates and educating Wellington newbies about us. We closed out the Wellington event calendar, which was a Wellington NZ initiative, with 2,133 redemptions over the period. And we continue to support and partner with our CCO partners, including Valentine's Day collaboration with Space Place to promote their event. We hosted a number of film crews, which are incredibly valuable, and that included a photo shoot with Women's Amateur Asia Pacific Golf Championship players, coordinated with Wellington NZ. Event footage was shared on Sky Sport channels, giving Wellington cable car visibility in 80-plus countries and to millions of viewers. We also hosted the BBC for Great Railway Journeys, which will be airing in 2027. And we hosted New Zealand Darts with New Zealand's number 2, Ben Robb. Back to Stephen.
We now have a good understanding of the seismic risks of all of our structures. The focus remains on strengthening our 3 bridges. We're working with Stantec on installing catch brackets and WSP on pier strengthening. Those projects are, we've completed the detailed design for the catch brackets. We're about to prepare tender documents, and the detailed design is being worked on for the pier strengthening. We appreciate the support through the long-term plan for the funding for strengthening of those assets. In terms of challenges, I suppose our challenges are really related to income and costs. Fergus has talked about the weather events through January, resulting in fewer visitors and also a cancellation of a cruise ship, but very close to our passenger and revenue numbers. In February, on 8th of February, we had a breakdown related to our FUA system that I think Tansy talked to you about last time. This is our remote monitoring unit. It has about 100 electronic modules in it, 40 in the drive station, and really, I suppose, difficult to track down where that fault lies, and some of it relies on international connections. So we're phoning to Austria and trying to get information, waking people up in the middle of the night. So a bit of a challenge to get that back up and running. I'll talk some more about how we're going to do a bit of servicing on that during our annual maintenance closure. Also working on asset renewals, looking at getting a quote to replace the carjacking system and seismic strengthening. Coming up in Q4, we're now planning for our annual maintenance closure. Typically that involves replacing one of the bogies underneath the cars that's been reconditioned, full load brake testing and other annual checks. This year that work will be condensed into 3 days to allow for Frey technicians to come from Austria to service this FUA system, remote monitoring unit. They'll be testing all of those modules and retuning the cars. We've also been working on our website. The launch of that's been slightly delayed due to vendor issues, where the upgrade to the website will allow locals to top up multi-trip cards online. We are preparing to introduce a small price increase in July, but note that that won't impact on locals pricing. We've also been collaborating with businesses around Wellington and other organisations We've got a collaboration going with Archie Brothers to promote our family tickets. Recently, we supported the Fault Line Ultra running event, and we continue to work with Victoria University.
So that's our presentation for you. I think overall the cable car is performing well. We have had our issues with those breakdowns, but Stephen has come up with a good solution. It's just unfortunate that we have to bring someone all the way from Austria to do the work on that, but we are making sure that we can protect ourselves from this happening again. So we now welcome any questions you may have.
Councillor Compton.
I like to ask questions. This actually isn't a question, it's just a comment. I'm always impressed, deeply impressed by the cable car and what you do with your assets, and I'd just like to commend you guys. You guys appear to be working so hard for what you guys achieve, and I'd just like to thank you. I just think it's incredible. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And just, on behalf of the board, we have a small board of 3, but I can tell you our team, led by Stephen in the engineering area, they do an enormous job. And health and safety is number one. And we make and our team makes sure that you have a product which you can be proud of. It is a taonga, and we protect it and treasure it ourselves.
Councillor Osborne.
Excuse me. First of all, I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Compton said. I think the cable car is a really great asset for the city. Just a quick question. A couple of presentations ago, Tansy talked about a collaboration you did with, I think it was the Wellington Chocolate Factory, where they came in and on one of the busy days when one of the cruise ships was in town and set up shop down in the cable car. I wonder if there's any plans for further sort of collaborations with local businesses to help spread the good word?
I think really we're always looking for those opportunities. Yeah, so they set up, I think, a stall at Kelburn and were providing tasting sessions and those sorts of things. I think you probably see a bit of our online presence. There's a lot of connection with other businesses, and I think we're always open to those collaborations.
I think it does also lead to one of the issues which is more in our future planning, which is our involvement with the Kelburn precinct and what we can do to engage with the other people up there to make it more lively and more attractive for visitors. And, that's something we're working on, and we're working with council and officials, and it's something which would be great, if we had more access, if you like, to some of those areas around the cable car, which we don't control. It would make it easier for things like hosting weddings or other events up there, which would then once again provide revenue. We're looking for every dollar behind the couch, so to speak, and we have vending machines in, and we're looking at putting another vending machine down, maybe in Lambton, any of those events which we can do with other businesses, whether it be Weta or whether it be any kind of Wellington business. That's what we're looking forward to. So if you hear of any opportunities, please let us know.
Wonderful. Thank you both. I was tempted to ask what a bogey was, but then I fear I wouldn't understand the answer.
It's sort of the chassis under the car.
Okay.
So each car has 2 kind of wheel sets really underneath it.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. All right. Wonderful. Thank you. Now,
Thank you.
Committee, we're going to have one more presentation and then we're going to have a longish break. So if you're wondering where your morning tea break is, it is coming. But first we're going to hear from our friends at Wellington NZ. My Tracy Bridges, the Chair, and Heidi Morton, the Chief Operating Officer. Over to you.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi nui. Good to be here as always. Mark sends his apologies. He is also up at Trends and, among other things, meeting with the Tourism Minister to try and extract yet more funding for our good region. So, but we're very fortunate to have Heidi here, and she's going to take you through the presentation just in a moment. As always, and as with our other CCO colleagues, the quarter that we're presenting on seems like a long time ago now, so we will sort of mix up with a little bit of reporting on some other sort of important events and, of course, looking ahead. And the big focus for us, we've never got time in 10 minutes to talk through all of the things that our team is working across all of the work, so we'll focus, as always, on economic benefit and impact. And that's very much on all of our minds at the moment, particularly since right now is budgeting time. It's not without its challenges. I know for you that's also not without its challenges, so just kind of acknowledging all of that. So our focus is absolutely on where we can have the biggest impact, and particularly, when we hear news of yet another round of, potentially public sector layoffs, and really, really acutely aware of the impact that could have, the flow-on impact on businesses, and really, so although it might not play much into what we're going to talk about now, I just want to reassure you that we're acutely alert to our role in trying to support our city through that. So with that, I'm going to hand to Heidi to talk us through the presentation.
Kia ora koutou, everybody. I guess quarter three performance here up there is something that we're very proud of. All our KPIs are on track there, including one that's not up there, which is around funding diversification. So that is our drive to actually not have so much reliance on our core shareholders for our funding. So for the first time in many years, it looks like we're on track to achieve that this year, which really shows, highlights for us anyway, that we work best in partnership. When we can utilise council core funding to unlock other funding from other organisations and businesses, it does mean that it enables us to have increased outcomes than what we would be able to have on our own, whether it would just be with core funding or with working in partnership with others. So we're really, really, really proud of that in terms of being able to unlock additional funding through the use of core funding from yourselves in GWRC. It's not without its challenges at the moment, particularly with rising costs, not only for ourselves, but also for particularly in the event sector. So things are costing more to put on, but they're also costing more for the artists as well. And that's really affecting us in terms of we have to think a lot more carefully about what we actually do support and how we can actually bring that in. Fuel costs and uncertainty around the war are affecting some promoters and presenters' ability to bring artists to New Zealand and to Wellington. We've had a couple of cancellations of acts that weren't announced just through the artists not wanting to actually be on the other side of the world if something happened. It's becoming harder to sell a ticket and through the economic impacts of things happening throughout the country. And it also is affecting the businesses that we work through on the other side of our business, and tourists coming to the city as well. But I think amongst all that, we're faring really, really well as a city, and that's through us looking at opportunities that can overcome those. What we've been up to, it feels like we've been up to a great deal actually, not only in quarter three but also popping out. Events have been a real highlight in this quarter, and just after in April we've had one of our busiest Aprils on record. Promoters and presenters have actually shown confidence in Wellington, and that is really through ensuring that our partners across the city, including yourselves at Wellington City Council and Henry Stadium and the cable car, etc., we're showing clearly that our strength in the city lies in being events friendly, and one of those ones that was a great highlight of that was the Ultra Music Festival in early April, just outside this period. But that event went from go to show in 3 months, where it would normally take us 12 to 18 months, and the City Council played a huge part in that, enabling that to happen. Having also, the Warriors Fault Line Ultra meant that we saw some weekends at 95% occupancy for accommodation in the city, which our hotel partners were really pleased for. But it also showed a real diverse type of event on through Q3 and April, and we're trying to make sure that we have something for all, something for everyone in the community to feel like that's something that they want to come to. But we do need to keep that momentum going. Rising costs and putting a lot of pressure on our major events fund to get to a point shortly where we may have to have a this or that scenario happening. Outside events, there's been some great things happening, particularly in the city, but also around the region, which we've been working with, and the release of our new More Wellington campaign, so more per square metre, which the Mayor has been involved in as well, has been well received with those. You probably don't see it in Wellington, and that's on purpose. Most of it is shown outside the region to drive visitation. But we've got strong digital presence happening as well, and a lot of work with businesses, and through the City in Transition program, we've been working on the South Coast in particular, assisting those there. And we saw 72,000 visitors through Tākina in the period as well, and that's on all floors of that, obviously, through exhibitions, business events, and the shopping cafe. So it's good to see those numbers starting to rise again, and we're all looking forward to Brickman's Star Wars exhibition coming up, which will be a good one. So coming up, the More Wellington campaign will be on throughout the winter. You'll see some of it in Wellington. Thank you, Tracy. But you'll see some of it in Wellington, but a lot of it is focused outside there. We've got WOW 2026 Glow. The tickets sales are strong, and the city activation for that is well planned. Visa Wellington on a plate, and a new festival, slightly different festival coming up, the Loomis Festival, which is not a festival in one place, it's right throughout the city, and working in partnership with them. The team are working on a refresher of the Regional Economic Development Plan, which may see some new projects and programs of work there that we will engage ourselves with. And strong work with the city to ensure that the town hall can open in early 2027 to the public. We're working to ensure that we can take that over as business as usual, as one of our other venues, as soon as it is ready. We've got a lot of work happening in the screen sector as well. So our core pillars and sectors that we like to support in terms of screen, technology and tourism are showing strong signs of recovery, and the teams, particularly at Creative HQ, is doing really well in the screen. A lot of films coming up, and a lot of stuff in the pipelines to make sure that the workforce there and the jobs continue. Questions?
Wonderful. We do have some. Councillor Osborne.
Thanks, Chair. I've actually got 3 questions, but happy to go to the bottom of the list. Thank you. Appreciate it. My first question is, your report talked about a water resilience paper. I'm just wondering if that is around a storage scheme in the Wairarapa.
That is correct, yes.
And if that paper just took into account the costs of intensification in terms of the environment, in terms of water quality and especially soil quality in that paper.
Yes, so that is something that our business and innovation team who look after the Wairarapa are working with councils over there on. I'm not 100% certain on the exact specifics in that actual paper, but your points are definitely raised with the team to make sure that they are, which I probably could say with 90% confidence, because they're great questions that the team have considered those. Yeah.
Thank you. The second question, I was just wondering if you could expand a little bit on the work of the Industrial Land Steering Group.
Yes, that is That is another one being in progress and not fully formed yet. So I can't give you at this meeting any further information about that, but we can get the team to reach out to you to talk about.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then the last question is, I wonder if you could just provide a little bit more detail around the Wellington Region Trails Experience Plan, and provide some of the risks to that plan.
Yeah, so the Wellington Regional Trails Network. So at the moment, we work in partnership through funding from all councils around the region to join up all the trails from a perspective of enabling them to be marketed as a destination well, and also in some areas to act as a conduit with MB for maintenance. Through that, we don't undertake that maintenance ourselves, but act as a conduit for MB to ensure that can occur. Some of that funding is under threat. So the team have been working with other TAs in terms of putting that work into a trust, with reduction in funding from the City Council, Wellington City Council. That is under threat in terms of what happens in the future. If one council pulls away from that, it is likely that other councils will also pull away from it. We utilise that in a self-funded mechanism where we try to, the specifics of the funding are used for that program rather than drawing on Wellington City or GWSC's core funding.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Compton.
Good morning. So I also have 3 questions. Just following on from Councillor Osborne's questions around the regional trails. So I'd asked some questions in the Q&A around that, and I can see it actually has significant economic benefit. I'm just wondering, out of curiosity, do you know how much the budget is that Wellington City Council currently provides?
From memory off the top of my head, it's about 140 to 160,000 a year. I can confirm that exact number.
Thank you. My second question, noticing the success in the weekend of the Magic Round for the NRL, and also the the Super Rugby round down in Christchurch. Are you guys tapping into that to get it to Wellington?
There is, I guess, a question that we ask ourselves whether it's a new stadium effect as well that's ensured that it was a really positive thing in Christchurch for the Super Round. NRL is definitely something that we are very keen on and are working with the Warriors in particular in terms of how we can bring them back to the city after the successful 35,000 people at the stadium around there, and great visitor nights from that when it landed on Anzac weekend. NRL being one of the fastest growing sports in New Zealand at the moment holds a lot of interest for us. I think in terms of the costs of the super rounds, both from NRL and from rugby as well, are high. Whether that, in our analysis, whether that's the best bang for our money in Wellington, if there was a location aspect to the success of those as well.
And my final question, you noted the success of the Ultra Festival. Congratulations to turn that around within 3 months. You said ordinarily it would have taken potentially up to 18 months to turn around an event like that. So I'm just wondering what lessons that were learned from that, and specifically what actually worked to improve the turnaround on that event.
I think when everyone knows that there's a deadline, you can work at speed. We had amazing support from Wellington City Council's ELT and Anna in particular driving from there. So when when we went along to an ELT meeting and basically said we need all areas of council consenting, resourcing, etc., to work together, waterfront, to make sure that it happens. We just saw everyone make it happen, and so the lesson for us is really to ensure that we engage early, and we have really strict deadlines on when things need to happen, but also explain to them, what the benefits of these events are and what the impact that they actually make right across our city and region, because they do flow out into the region as well.
Thank you. I worked on the London Olympics, so I know something about deadlines. Thank you for your answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's all the questions. Oh, yes, Councillor Osborne, you may have another one.
I didn't want to have a fourth, but I will. Just to follow up again on the Wellington Regional Trails plan.
Yes.
Do you think with the opening of Te Ara Tupua just in the last week that it would be a lost opportunity to not continue to work on that plan?
Yes, is probably the answer that I'd put there. Active tourism is becoming a growth area. So we saw that with the Faultline Ultra, which is running and mountain biking right through different TAs but ending in Wellington. But active tourism research shows that they're looking for opportunities, and us having a connected rail network, cycle and trail network, which also shows through connected marketing, there's a risk if each TA just looks after their own that it becomes very, very disjointed. So actually having it together gives us a product that is saleable, and that's what Wellington needs more of in the tourism sector as a destination, is products that are actually packageable and saleable to individuals and tour groups. But you only have to look at the success of Central Otago to show that when it's done well, it adds a huge amount of benefit, and they stay longer and they spend more.
All right, I think that's the end of the questions. Thank you both. I'm excited. I think we're going to have another busy weekend this weekend. I'm excited to go to Marlon Williams and those series of sold out shows. So look forward to that being a vibrant, busy weekend.
And the rugby too, Councillor?
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
And if I can put one plug in, is that Anne Juliet finishes at the weekend, and it's the best musical that I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot in my role. So go along if you haven't already.
Yeah, to the 3 people watching on YouTube, they have done a great promotion there. Thank you so much, both. Councillors, we're going to take, as I highlighted, a slightly longer break, but we're going to come back. We'll come back at 11, but just so you know, we have 2 presentations to come, but we are, Karen Fifield has another appointment, so that is kind of, otherwise we would be kind of racing through this meeting and kind of getting everywhere early, but of course we've got the event for her later too. So this is a very, special, as her last committee meeting. But we'll break now to 11. Thank you. the last two presentations. We think, unfortunately, Karen Fifield won't join us for the Zoos presentation, but we'll do Whiako Pōneke first. So, no mai, Diana and Alicia, welcome, and you have 10 minutes, and we'll have 10 minutes for questions if there are any, so welcome. I was going to say, as I introduced you, that I had seen pushchair traffic jams outside Capital E, which was amazing. Obviously, in the new facility, being very much enjoyed by parents in Tamariki.
Something? Oh yeah, our numbers have tripled since we've moved there. It's been a really great outcome. O tēnā koutou katoa. Alicia and I are going to do a double act today, and Martin Matthews, our chair, sends his apologies. He couldn't be here today. So first of all, I'd just like to talk about the opportunities that we see in Wellington. And I know that last night, we had some challenging news about our city. But I think it's really important that we double down on the work that we've done and the green shoots that our organisation is seeing everywhere. Wellington is going to fix Wellington's problem, and I think we need to focus on good news rather than all the negatives that we keep hearing about our city. So I just think about Tanako. We've moved into Matapihi with Capital E, Nuku Te Ao, and City Gallery's opening in a fortnight with our fashion show, our first event after it's reopened. But our administration is on the top floor of Te Matapihi. We feel very privileged to be there, I might say. It's very unusual for an arts organisation to have such a beautiful office. But what you can do when you stand at the top of Te Matapihi is look out down our cultural corridor. And we can't quite see Courtney Place, but it starts with the Embassy Theatre. It moves to Bats, it moves down to Te Papa and Takina, just getting a word in there. Then over to Toiponaki, Circa Theatre, down to the Whariwaka and the boat shed, over the bridge to the most amazing cultural precinct. I think it is the only arts and cultural precinct in the city, and that is Tanako, our beating heart. We've got City Gallery, we've got Te Matapihi, we're opening with the Town Hall next year. We're working very closely with the New Zealand School of Music on that opening, by the way. Yesterday I saw the NZSO outside City Gallery. Did any of you see that? They'd actually built these fake Town Hall columns. They'd put seating. It was amazing. It was really innovative and imaginative, and that just shows what the possibilities can provide. The councillors put their money where their mouth is. They've really invested in this, and now it's time to double down on it. You know, in 2024, the arts and creative sectors contributed 17.5 billion to our economy. That's 4.2% of GDP. So the arts is not decorative. It's not a nice to have, which is often a common misunderstanding about arts and culture. It's necessary. And, you know, if you think about great cities that people go and visit, like in Europe, Florence, for example, the infrastructure is not very good. But the stories, the museums and galleries are really important. And we've got a beautiful city, which we can all now see around our waterfront. And we've got that whole arts and cultural corridor, Tanako Square, and real opportunities to make something happen special. And then if we build out into the city, we've got all the other experiences that our other CCOs have. So now is the time to double down. And, you know, while infrastructure is important, it makes the city livable, but it's the arts and culture and the other experiences that make it lovable. So just onto our quarterly report, we've reported a year-to-date surplus of just over 1 million, and we're projecting a surplus of about 769,000 at the end of the year. Now, some of that surplus is due to closures of gallery, but we've also worked really hard to change our budgeting process, improve our capability and capacity within the organisation, and we're really seeing fruits of that labour. Our spend per visit is $4.75, and our physical visitations, we didn't have the Douse figures because we're co-presenting with the Douse, obviously, while the City Gallery is closed. We didn't have those figures when we put in our quarterly report, but they've ended up meaning that we've exceeded our City Gallery target. 71,000 went to our Douse exhibition, and I might add 45% of those were from the Wellington region, so Wellingtonians are seeing it. It was quite a small number from Lower Hutt. I know some people have raised that as an issue, but it's for the whole Wellington region. And that was for our Blood is Thicker. It it included an enormous number of works, and there was a lot of return visitation. So we will easily achieve our year-to-date target of visitation. And obviously next year our expectations are much greater. But if you just think about that number, 71,000 over a few months, that's quite a remarkable achievement. Right. Alicia.
So highlights, both Wellington Museum and Space Place received gold Callmark ratings in the last quarter. Conversation has also started regarding design and development opportunities for the old E building. So there is much work to do here, with an opening date looking at possibly mid to late 2027. This space will, we hope, become an extension of City Gallery Wellington, as well as an amazing agile space in the heart of Tanako. So CGW continues its work away from home, with exhibitions at the National Library coming to an end this week after 18 months of working together with the National Library. Wellingtonians will get a glimpse inside City Gallery Wellington between the 5th and 7th of June, with the gallery hosting Common Material. This is a celebration and showcase of Wellington creatives through fashion, production, craft, and the realities of making fashion in Aotearoa. Many of these shows have already sold out, which is just fantastic, and we've been working alongside brands such as Koto, J Palm, Yume, and 27 Names. Capital E Nokotiao is now settled in its new home in Te Matapihi. In its first 9 weeks, Play HQ has welcomed over 12,000 under fives who have accepted our invitation to play. This compares to the same time last year in Queen's Wharf, where we welcomed just over 4,000 people. So that is amazing. And as you noted before, we have a pushchair jam at times.
Congestion.
But actually we also have to stop. We can't let everybody in because we've got a maximum per head, and so we have to turn people away.
So we're working on what that looks like in an ongoing reality. Cable Car Museum continues to be a positive financial contributor, performing close to last year's financial outcomes despite a lower visitation, which has mostly been driven by the cruise ship arrivals. And finally, we continue to invite people to shop Wellington with our online store and branding. This is a retail platform that is celebrating Te Whanganui-a-Tara, its makers and creators, and that is performing incredibly well.
So our challenges, our financial challenges, I guess the major one is the geopolitical instability, particularly with our exhibition from overseas. But we've had an update on our freight costs. They're only 4% more, which is a surprise to us. We were allowing for up to 25%, and then we were going to look at other options. They're coming from 4 places around the world: Japan, New York, London and Spain, and we have contingencies if it had got over the amount that we were able to withstand, that we might have been able to let one work go. But it looks like we're in a really strong position. We don't know what freight's going to look like on the return because it closes in March, but we're feeling okay about where we're at with that. Obviously visitation will be affected, and we need to look at strategies around that. I just personally, and this is personally, anecdotally, have noted that prices internally on planes are higher than increases overseas. So hopefully we can still attract some of the Australian market, which we're hoping to do with the Cornelia exhibition, which is the one I'm referring to. Our non-financial challenges, obviously the ongoing issue of Wellington Museum and the bond store. But other than that, I feel like many of the challenges that we've had, we've been able to now manage and work our way through, and we feel like we're in a really strong position to move forward with the City Gallery reopening, the move into Te Matapihi. So we're seeing green shoots. I guess we just hope that those green shoots are capitalised on.
So coming up, Whiaka Pōneke has joined with the Ministry of Culture and Heritage to provide visitor experience at the recently reopened Pukeahu National War Memorial. For us, this really is an opportunity to continue to weave stories of Te Whanganui-a-Tara into our visitor experience, and it's about connecting people and place and bringing these stories to life. Space Place has actually just closed on its very first film festival. This was a very first for Aotearoa. It's Australasia's only full dome planetarium film festival, and we brought the best of the fest of Melbourne's Dome Under Film Festival, also known as DUF, and this is around our strategy to continue to invite new audiences to experience Space Place. City Gallery Wellington curators are developing a Nen Street takeover that will open on July the 31st, and this continues our work to connect with new audiences and open up more diverse stories within our spaces. And tomorrow, we reawaken the building of City Gallery Wellington. Our staff have been away from home for 2 years, and we move home, which is so exciting. And we're moving towards October to open to the public. Sorry, it's quite a moment for us. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to that. We're looking forward to opening the doors permanently again in October, and we'd love to see you there.
You can see there's a lot of staff buy-in here. I think everybody feels really emotional. Many of our staff have wanted to get in there as soon as possible. They feel a real connection with the building. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity to present. Yep. Any questions?
I have a question because I'm like you. I'm very excited. My apologies for tomorrow, but I understand there will be a hospitality offering coming soon. So I'm looking forward to the day where I'm going to be able to have a glass of wine in your whare. Is that correct, in the City Gallery?
Oh, yeah. We've always had wine there, haven't we? Don't worry, we actually have purchased a bar because our other one was rusty, so we're really prepared for that, Rebecca.
Sorry to lower the tone. Councillor Osborne.
Thanks, Chair. And thanks for the work. It sounds like you guys are doing good mahi, and it's awesome to hear about the pushchair jam around Capital E. I wonder if we need to look at some pushchair ways. I did just want to quickly note, it's good to hear that you're doing some work around the old Capital E building. I don't know if other members, that's the first you've heard of it. Last we were told about it, it was going to be a shell. So it's good that it seems like a natural fit. So I'm pleased to hear that. I have a couple of questions, sorry. So one was you mentioned in your report that you have some anecdotal concerns that the international fees that you're charging at Wellington Museum is leading to international visitors essentially choosing between Te Papa and Wellington Museum. And whilst Wellington Museum is great, and I don't want to suggest anything otherwise, obviously Te Papa has a very strong pitch to the international market. So I wonder if there's any work you've done to look at that and whether it might be possible to combine with Te Papa and offer a 2-for-1 or a package deal, anything along those lines.
Well, I'll answer your second question first, and Alyssa can answer your first question last. We have had discussions with Te Papa about should we move in next door and about shared ticketing. We haven't had discussions about our current museums, so that's something to think about. But I'll pass you on to Alicia to explain some of that anecdotal feedback that we've had.
Yes. Despite this sense that people are choosing, international visitation this year was actually up on last year, and we have very little pushback on the charges. I think it's that we've been pushing for growth and we probably haven't got quite the growth that we wanted, and we just see that dwell times are increasing. So we've made that anecdotal assumption that people are no longer coming in for a look around. They're purchasing their admission, they're taking their time, and they're getting their sense of money's worth. And we feel that that absolutely will have an effect on visitation growth because you're getting one or the other.
Just one more, if that's okay, Chair. I also noted that your year-to-date expenses were quite a bit lower than what you had budgeted for. I'm just wondering what's driven that.
So we've a lot of that's around personnel costs. We have re-looked at how we've structured our personnel and made changes appropriately. We also have made a significant saving in our front of house costs. Alicia put in a new process and system which has enabled us to better program and put in a better roster, and we've made savings around that year, and work's been going on for 18 months, but it's now coming to fruition, the systems and processes that you've put in place. Our exhibition costs are down. That's partly originally we were going to do the Cornelia a bit earlier, and it's moved financial years, and also we're always very cautious about cost. We are very careful if there's ways to save money or opportunities to save money or not make purchases. We don't. We're also now looking at how we move forward with our capital expenditure, bearing in mind that has an impact over 5 years rather than one, and that's something that we've got to work on now too, because obviously we've got funds to purchase, but if it's over 5 years, for example, we want to make sure that we're operationally resilient to that.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions? There appear to be none. I just want to acknowledge all the work, I see and under your leadership, Diana, the transformation that has been happening under quite difficult circumstances. So credit to you and your team, and all the very best for tomorrow and going home.
Thank you.
I would now like to welcome Jamie Tuta and Amy Hughes on behalf of Te Nukuau Wellington Zoo. Welcome. I'm sorry that your glorious leader is not with us. I was looking forward to calling her Karen Minefield in front of a room full of people.
She won't forgive me for that one. I'm getting updates from Kinapuru, so she will be here for 12:30.
Ka pai. O e mihi ana kia tātou I tēnei ata. Me te mihi kia Karen. Ka wehe nei a mātou o te Nukuau, hoi no tēnā tātou. So thank you all. So it's you've got Amy and I. I had sort of primed Karen up to make some parting shots, but she could probably do that informally at 12:30. I think as you will see from the report from council officers, we still have, we're still operating within a challenging sort of environment in terms of visitation, which we'll sort of talk through today. But I think to sort of step back, and if we think about our year-to-date performance and the quarter that has been, we're still delivering strongly for Wellingtonians on education, our conservation initiatives, animal welfare, visitor satisfaction and community value. The main pressure point, as you will see from reports, and we'll talk a bit later through the presentation, is revenue, which is driven by visitation and visitor-generated income, which is sort of below budget by about 15%. So that's our big sort of challenge at the moment. I think despite those challenges, there are some positive sort of shoots within the organisation and the business in terms of learning revenue, which is up and above budget, and some of our operational grants and sponsorship and bequests is sort of ahead of budget, which I think is really sort of useful. And that's sort of, I think we're sort of 12 and a bit % above there. Total operating revenue, as I said, is below budget at 6%. You would have seen in the report that we're forecasting a deficit for this financial year of 750,000. I feel like a broken record, and I know Karen sort of talked about this. There is the sort of downward cycle that we find ourselves in, which I think if you look across a lot of visitation in our region, most are challenged at the moment. But I think, it's important that I think the council reflect on the funding model for Te Nukuau, because I think some of this is structural when you think about 42% of the contribution from council relative to what Te Nukuau was sort of generating ourselves. So I think that's an issue for the long-term plan that needs to be sort of addressed, or just some clarity as we sort of move forward into the future. But I think really, as a board, we're really pleased because despite the sort of fact that visitation revenue is down, what do we control? We control our expenditure, and so that's sitting 4% below budget, which I think is really is great from the team's perspective, given we have fixed costs which are increasing, such as food and other things for animals. So we've got some encouraging indications for April, which we might sort of touch on as we go through the presentation. But as I say, the biggest sort of challenge for not only the zoo te nuku but also council is really the zoo's sort of structural funding model, which is something we've been talking about over the last couple of years. And so that's just something, again, to put on the table. And Karen encouraged me to do that today in her absence. So we'll work through the presentation, and I'll hand over to Amy. And I just want to acknowledge councillors who attended not only Karen's farewell, I think there was a beautiful night at the zoo, but also those councillors, and particularly the mayor that got him behind the 120th birthday celebrations, and also acknowledge the broader CCO whānau who, again, sort of worked in partnership with us to bring that celebration to life. And I'm going to hand over to Amy now.
Thanks, Jamie. So I think Jamie's touched on most of this. The exciting part of this is work has commenced on phase 2 of the Giraffe House project, and that's been fully externally funded by Pub Charity. And we have built a yard for the giraffes so they have more space, and also the next phase of that phase will start in a few weeks, and we're enclosing the house to make sure we can manage the temperature, keep it warm, and manage all the giraffes separately. As Sunny, our male giraffe, is very large, we need the ability to be able to separate him off from the other giraffes at times. For various reasons.
Yeah, no further comment needed.
Yeah. And as Jamie said, our students and young people that we're seeing coming to the zoo is way ahead of target. Already we're ahead of year-to-date target at the end of March. Our learning workshops are ahead of target. We're ahead of our Ministry of Education target. So we're seeing a lot of young people, which is actually really nice for the zoos, because zoos internationally, they struggle to attract young people. But I think our young people have grown up with a good zoo in Wellington over the last 10, 15 years, and they come and visit it, and they're proud of it. Visitor numbers, as Jamie said, are behind target. So I'll just skip over that one.
Just some context, I think.
I think it is mainly, we know that there is a lot of issues in terms of disposable income. We are affected by a drop in domestic tourism, and as the fuel crisis embeds and the cost of fuel is higher, that really affects us. So that is what we'll be looking at. We haven't yet seen a drop-off in schools coming because the buses are getting more expensive, but we're anticipating that as well and thinking about what we might do around that piece. We have, in April, we beat last year's year-on-year visitation target, so I'm really happy with that. And last weekend, for our welcome weekends, which are discounted entry, we had 2,200 visitors one day and 2,400 the next, which is like a peak summer day. So that also shows to me that people are price sensitive at the moment.
The other end, going back to the price sensitivity, it's interesting because those that are coming to the zoo are spending more on retail.
Yeah.
And we've got products like Close Encounters have increased. So it just shows that those that have disposable income where they are able to spend continue to do so, but then we've got the sort of lower socioeconomic segment, and then those that are making choices around where they put the addition, the disposable income, which we're starting to feel. Well, we are feeling.
Yeah, our visitation's about 16% behind target, but our revenue's 5% behind target. So as Jamie said, when people are coming, they are spending. And then the operating grant per visitor, that reflects that same reality. So our speckled skinks, we talked about them last time. So we've had the birth of 4 babies now, so there's 7 known in total. We have been looking after some jewelled geckos for DOC that were seized from the illegal wildlife trade, and so we quarantine them at Te Nukuau before they go to Otago Museum, where there are other jewelled geckos. We talked last time about the seabirds and our fundraising for that was off the back of caring for a lot of albatross. We've just had 2 of our zookeepers travel to Tasmania to work with Save the Tasmanian Devil program, which is a conservation partner that we support, and they are sent there through a staff conservation fund grant. So all of our staff have the opportunity to apply to go and work with conservation partners. And we have a chimp baby. Born to first-time mum Malika, she was about a month premature, so we were a little bit worried, but now she's caught up to when she would have been born, and she's starting to look, according to the chimp team leader, like a proper baby chimp. We have developed an animal welfare strategy, which it's based on the Waza World Zoo and Aquarium Association Animal Welfare Strategy. We had a big operation for Nia, the young giraffe. She was showing some signs of some breathing issues. So they did some exploratory work, and it seems there's not an ongoing problem, so that's fantastic. And unfortunately, we've had to say goodbye to some animals over the last couple of months, which has been really tough, including Bashi the tiger in April. We have partnered with PlayStation to have an installation at the zoo on climate action, and we launched that with the City Council Climate Action Festival that was on, enabling people to, through VR, see the reality of climate change and what that looks like in different parts of the world. After the Wellington floods, because they were so centralised around the zoo, we offered free entry to people from those most affected city suburbs. We had 619 people come that weekend, or that Saturday, which was fantastic, some of who participated in that climate station and said how much it really brought that home to them. So that was, it was a really nice thing we could do for our closest community members. I am going to skip ahead to the 120th because I see that we're running quite tight on time. But as some of you may know, April was, this is the challenges, we've talked about that as well, the 120th birthday. So we are New Zealand's first zoo, we're Wellington's oldest conservation organisation, and we really wanted to celebrate that we've been an integral part of the city for 120 years. And we really wanted to highlight the fact that it is Wellington Zoo, like it's all of our zoo. It's not this kind of just thing that sits off to the side, but we've welcomed 5 generations of Wellingtonians to Te Nukuau, and we really wanted to celebrate that generational importance of the zoo. We plastered the city, including a tiger bus with celebrations. We had amazing media coverage, including features in the Post, coverage on TVNZ, RNZ and News Talk ZB. We had great collaborations with some of our CCO whānau and other Wellington organisations, so cable car, libraries, Aiko, the airport, Chocolate Factory, the City Council and Wellington Museum. We had an amazing celebration weekend, and the highlight was this community support that we saw that we didn't even anticipate, like a group of volunteers planted some native plants opposite the zoo for the 120th, and we didn't even know that they were doing that. It was really lovely.
Council land.
Yeah. And just the support of people and how much they loved it. And in our visitor surveys, we're still seeing people say we're coming because it is the zoo's 120th and we wanted to celebrate. So these are just some photos from our celebrations. It was a really special weekend, and I think, to Jamie's point about the zoo, the visitor numbers may not be where they are, but it's my team who's responsible for putting on these celebrations and attracting people to the zoo and delivering great visitor experience. Talk about the vibes are really good at the moment, like the visitors are loving the zoo, the staff are happy, it feels like such a nice place. The only thing that's holding us back is not as many people coming as we would like to. So apologies for going a bit long. And there's the baby.
Oh.
And she is a female, which is good. It's nice to have a new female in the family.
All right. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Osborne. It's frequent flyers today.
Apparently. Couple of questions actually. We heard earlier from Zealandia, and they talked about the impact that climate change was having on their business. And and that they were looking at sort of contingency of 2 to 5% each year to try and overcome those impacts of climate change fueled storms. I'm just wondering if the zoo is thinking about anything similar, and also just if you could give an indication of the impacts that the 2 most recent storms we've had on your revenue.
I think in terms of the effect on our revenue, we, I think, the zoo, I've worked at the zoo for over 20 years, and this financial year is the first time we've closed the zoo, and we've now closed it 4.5 days. And also the increased, so until I think it was 3 years ago, there were no red weather warnings, and now that there are red weather warnings, it's not only affecting, people aren't leaving the houses as much, so there's also a lot of comms about people not going outside. I mean, not that, we've never had 0 visitor days, so even in the worst weather, there is always, again, in my 20 years, I've never seen a 0 visitor day, so someone will always brave the weather. But having to shut, so for the celebration weekend, the Saturday we saw about 1,800 visitors, and the Sunday there was a cyclone weather warning and we saw 150. So we have put everything on the table to get visitors to come, and there was 10% of visitors on the Sunday compared to the Saturday. So it is having an impact on people's willingness to leave the house and come to visitor attractions. So we haven't necessarily put figures around that, but it is substantial, yeah.
Thank you. And then my second question was, I noted that you've brought in quite a lot more grants, sponsorship and donations this year, than previous years, and I'm just wondering what you might attribute that to.
So quite a few of those grants are specifically for the native reptile work that we've been doing, so the work with the critically endangered Whitaker's skinks and the St Arno lowland speckled skinks. So that specific conservation work, so we've had funders who have indicated they'd like to fund conservation work behind the scenes. So we've had visibility of the work of Te Kohanga, the nest after the storm, and the amount of seabirds we saw and we've treated, and that native animal work. And then the other funders tend to fund us for our community programs and for like the children aspect, learning and education. So specifically having those specific projects like the reptiles, Te Kohanga, and our learning programs has helped us with that. And the capital projects like the giraffes, because that is a cool project for people to fund as well.
Councillor Compton?
Thank you, Chair. You noted that there's a drop in domestic tourism. Is that local or New Zealand-wide tourism to the zoo? So I was on a tourism industry Aotearoa call the other day, and they had the chief executive of MB and someone from Tourism NZ talking about it. So they haven't quantified that drop in domestic tourism yet, but we are normally in our April school holidays, we see people from Wanganui, from Palmerston North, because we are essentially the lower North Island Zoo as well. So we are still seeing people from Wellington region, but more from Wellington City. But it's more of those people who might drive down for a couple of hours that we are starting to see drop off. When I first met Karen, I asked her, what is she disappointed, after spending so long, what is she sad to not have seen progressed? And I'm going to bring up glamping. Okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's my understanding that these types of attractions are significant and could bring in significant amount of economic benefit to the city. And I've asked some questions in the Q&A around that, and I'm just wondering, are you looking to put it back in the long-term plan to try and renew hope? And if you are to do that, are you considering a PPP or a private partnership type model where essentially ratepayers who are tapped out wouldn't have to fund it and we could look at some private investment?
Yeah.
Well, I think this goes to the structural
Yeah.
funding sort of piece around, all of these. So we go back to the master plan, and all of the assets, including the animals, are owned by you. So owned by the council, and then so we as a trust are operating Tunukual, the zoo, and I think, it's striking the right balance around sort of council contribution for the foreseeable future, what we believe from a trust standpoint we can generate, and what does partnership look like in terms of having an attractive proposition. Central to the glamping opportunity is the master plan and the sort of steps and stages of that, because we need to reconfigure the existing footprint of the zoo to enable that to sort of happen. And I think we've talked about this previously around lions and those sorts of things.
Yeah, and we do need the commitment from City Council and the LTP in terms of, because the zoo land and buildings are all owned by council. And once we have an indication that there is support for glamping in the LTP, that's when we would work on business cases and look at external funding and the possibility of a PPP or whatever that looks like. Possibly similar to, we are the landlord for the cafe, so it might be something similar to that. But we do know that internationally glamping has worked at zoos all around the world, and in a large zoo in Australia they're actually moving to an accommodation first model, so that is their number one, and then the zoo is number two. So we've talked to Wellington NZ about it, and they are also excited about the possibility of increased accommodation and unique accommodation in Wellington. So it's just really a commitment, and then we will get going on it. Yeah.
I think that's the end of our questions. Thank you so much, both of you. And I just need to acknowledge formally the amazing contribution that Karen Fifield has made over her many years at the zoo. And we will miss her very much, and we very much look forward to welcoming Meg Rutledge in her new role.
Ngā mihi. Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora. All right, we will now move the paper. No mai, Jamie Crump, ki te hora e te kōrero. Please welcome Jamie Crump to introduce the report.
Tēnā koutou, no Toki Whakahaere e CCO whānau. In introducing our CCO Q3 report paper, I'd like to reiterate what you've already heard this morning from our CCOs. Despite the visitation challenges for some of our more tourism-related CCOs due to the inclement weather and cruise ship cancellations in the last quarter, our CCO whānau continue to provide significant positive benefit for Pōneke. I'd also like to reiterate what the Chair's just said. Really want to acknowledge Karen Fifield retiring after 20 years of outstanding service as Chief Executive of Tunukual Wellington Zoo. Karen's contribution to the city goes well beyond the zoo, and her legacy will certainly be felt for years to come. Happy to take any pātai on the report. Kia ora.
Are there any questions of Jamie? Thank you, Jamie, and thanks again for all of your work with our CCOs. Councillor Randall is going to move the paper.
Yes, so I'd like to move this report. We've had some, quite bad news in Wellington about, government moves and that sort of stuff. What reassured me about the reports today is the optimism that I saw coming from all the CCOs. I really think it's easy to fall into doom and gloom in these times when we keep getting a series of bad news. And I was really reassured at the optimism and the energy that is being reported. The CCOs, I think, are doing pretty well in trying conditions. And you can see that they're also very focused on their own delivery, and they can report on progress on most everything. Yes, there are some challenges, financial and otherwise, and because of their dependence on tourism, the disruption from the Gulf War and high fuel prices is getting in the road of them being as successful as we know they should be. But they're doing very well, and I do want to genuinely thank the leadership of the CCOs, but also the staff who are making it all work. So I move this.
Kia ora, and I'm happy to second. Is there any debate? There appears to be none. Let's go to the vote. That is carried. I am now going to move that we move into public excluded to protect the privacy of individuals. Do I have a seconder? Yep, Councillor Randall, thank you. We will go to the vote on that. That is carried, and we'll just take a minute to adjust. Thank you, and we'll see you soon, friends. I think I was probably exaggerating our YouTube audience there when I said there were 3 people. Te hui, me karaki a tātou. Unihia, unihia, unihia ki te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua, e te ara takatū, koe a rā e rongo, wake iria a ki runga, kia wātia, ai rā, kua wātia. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you soon for the celebration for Karen Fifield. Thank you.